friends and
Hello,
family.
everybody. Hello, hello, hello.
I'm with my daddy.
My
Hey,
daughters.
Papa.
Amen.
How you doing?
I'm good, baby. How are you?
I'm well, Papa. You look very handsome. You have on my
Yeah,
favorite color, green, mixed
yeah,
with white. It's giving very rich man.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
here
hey, listen,
for it.
I'm rich. I'm rich in
Okay.
relationship, rich in love, abounding in peace,
Ooh,
and all that which is good that God gives us.
all
Amen.
right. It's giving very wealthy. I love you so much. It's good to see you.
Love you too. Love you too. Love
And how
you.
y'all doing?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
Talk.
I'm just asking the people how they doing. Y'all doing good today? We missed you.
Yes,
Hope
we
you're
did.
doing good. We hope your day was good and that you found something to be grateful for. You
Yes.
found joy today. You made it a point to be grateful and enjoy today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on in, get comfortable, get you something to drink. I got tea today.
I like my coffee here, right? It was a
I
little
love green tea.
excellent.
That's what I'm drinking. What you want to talk about today, Papa?
Well, we've been talking, and basically the first few times we've been together, it's been mainly you asking me questions and me answering questions. But I want to kind of ask you a question. You were raised by myself and your mom, of course, being raised in a two-parent home, the accountability of having a father, the relationship of the dynamics of your relationship with your father. And basically, I want you to give the audience a glimpse of the maturity that takes place over years in the relationship that
Mm,
you have with your father and your mother, but the transcending nature of relationship as you mature and as you grow, and then when you have your own kids or your own kid in your case. So I'd like for you to kind of tell the people a little bit about what it's like to be a teenager in my house, college, and then into your adult years, and even into your more adult years that you are now. So okay, so what do you think?
oh man. Okay, transcending nature of relationships. I like how you frame that. Okay. So as a little girl, I remember thinking you were the first word that comes to mind is invincible. Like I saw you in a very magnanimous light. Like you were very strong to me, strong in leadership, strong physically. You were very stern also. Um but I felt very safe with you as a little girl. Safe physically.
Right.
Um, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Let's see what else. For folks don't know, and I think that for the sake of this conversation, it's some valuable information. I grew up along with my other three siblings in a home where we had to share our parents because y'all were pastors. And y'all were pastors at that time of the largest church in the Inland Empire. And it grew rapidly. So
Right.
all I know is sharing my parents. I was born into a family where we shared y'all. Um, and it wasn't my favorite thing. Uh, and I'm a very positive person, so I don't want to dwell on that because that's not really the biggest part of it, but it is a part of it. Um, But as I stated earlier, I remember feeling very protected physically as a daughter. And I also felt, um, I've always been, but Papa, I've always been somewhat of a free bird.
Mm-hmm.
But you were growing in being a father. And Tara, which is the firstborn, she's not like me. So I'm not
Yeah.
like
Very,
her.
very different in your approach to life.
hmm So I didn't always feel as free as I wanted to feel. Um, but again, because I felt safe physically, it wasn't the biggest thing in my life. What first comes to mind was the safety that I felt in having my dad. And when you don't have anything to compare it to, it's all you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
all you know, right? But I do remember as a child, I felt safe. Um, and I
Can I
hated hearing you.
can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Do you attribute that because I'm your dad and I was walking through this experience with you growing
yes,
up and I understood my perspective at that time. It's only as I've grown older that I understand your perspective in
yes.
retrospect. Uh, but uh, did the safety come from provisions?
Hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
The safety came from provision. The safety came in leadership, like we would have family meetings.
Yeah.
You would get us together. We prayed together. You were very, very busy. You and mommy both were very busy. So I don't remember necessarily a lot of sit down meals, but I remember eating together,
Every,
or at least
every
at the same time.
every Sunday after church. Every Sunday.
Well, that for sure. We
Every
always ate together every Sunday after church. I remember praying a lot together. I remember a lot of family meetings. And those really stick out in my mind because once I got older and I started dating, I thought all men did that. Like, of course, you would gather your family together and have meetings and explain what your vision is for
Mhm.
this. That's what you did. You explained what your vision for the next phase of life was going to be and, what you thought would happen or what you saw coming in. And you tried to prepare us for those things. And all of that lended to the security and the safety that I felt as a child still to this day because you talk to us and you talk to us about um, where you're headed or where you see you're leading your family. Yeah. So then let's see, my teenage years, I started coming into my own, and I think the free bird in me uh wanted to fly around a little bit more. As I think, when you're coming into your adulthood, that kind of just is what it is. It might display
It's part of growing
different.
up.
Right. It's a part of growing up. And so I remember going through that phase and you and I butting heads a lot.
Mhm.
Um, you want to expound on that?
Well, I think that uh, owning my own culpability, I can't
Mm,
own yours. I can only own my own.
mm,
I
mm.
think my basis of understanding was a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, you raise one daughter who has a completely different personality, not better, not worse, just different. The uniqueness. It's not our similarities that make us strong. It's the differences that make us strong.
Yes.
So that's something that I hold very dearly. And in raising one daughter and then having another daughter who is a very different personality, and then
Yeah.
to make matters even worse, not being able to discern or understand at the age I was, because I was a very young father,
Hmm.
and that you were just like me. You were eclectic, you were adventurous, you wanted to try things, you wanted to do things. And my greatest, I wouldn't even call it a mistake, but my greatest ignorance was how to harness that without killing it,
Yeah.
how to guide that without shutting it down.
Did it
Because
scare you, Papa? My exploratory nature, did that scare you about me?
well, I don't know if it scared me. Scared me personally. It scared me for you
Hmm.
because not only were you very adventurous, you were somewhat trusting. It wasn't that you wasn't discerning, but you were very trusting. And because your paradigm of a man was he's a protector, he makes me feel safe. So I felt I couldn't explain it back then, but I could explain it now. I felt it my responsibility to make sure your sister was a little different because she was a little reticent of everybody. She
Yeah.
had her own flow and her own difference. So there
Yeah.
was a little difference in you. You were more overt. She was more covert with her. You were more overt with it. And my greatest fear was that you would ruin who you are.
Oh.
I
Mm.
was trying to make sure that I could secure not my future, not my embarrassment. As I've told you many times, I'm never going to be embarrassed about anything that my kids do. You're not my pastor's kids. You're Eric's kids. You're not Apostle's kids. You're my kids. You're Eric's kids. We don't live by church rules. We live by a house rule. We don't live for the Lord because everybody sees us. We live for the Lord
Nope.
because He sees us.
Yes, sir.
So the definition of who I was and who you were and how I wanted you to be identified as a young lady kind of clashed with that creativity. Now, by my own admission, I could have been a little bit more liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been quite a bit more liberal. I could have been quite a bit more broader.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, not an excuse, but definitely an addendum to a reason, is that I was so extremely busy. I had so many things going, and there were so many things on my plate that I was responsible and accountable for by myself.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
thousands around me, but I was responsible by myself. So trying to keep order in everything was somewhat difficult. So I hope I didn't make a short question
Oh
long.
no, that was great. No, the people are getting to know us. So I feel like we've gotten a lot of great feedback at this point, but I
Yes, we appreciate that.
they want us to go into more detail. And so
Yeah.
I think the more detail we can provide, um, the better. So yeah, no, you didn't go too long at all. I had a thought. Um,
But can I add one more thing too? First of all,
Please do.
uh, I believe every father falls in love with his girls,
Mm,
not in an inordinate way. So please don't take it in that way. And I believe that it is the desire of every real man and real father to make his girls fall in love with him,
yeah.
to provide the atmosphere where she feels like, oh, I'm so in love with my dad, because then you set the standard for whoever comes into her life very, very high. And so there are a lot of things that I don't regret what I did. I just regret how I did.
Hmm.
I think I could have been a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more understanding. So having known that, having set that kind of standard, I would hope, and has been the case, that my daughters are very, very selective about their relationships.
Yeah.
Not that we've not made any mistakes, not that we haven't done anything, but we've been very selective. And I think that by and large, my daughters have made very wise decisions in relationships, even the ones I didn't necessarily agree with. And there were a few of those. So I didn't agree with some of them. But the thing about it is, and she would, I think Lika would tell you, I'm very transparent about that. When the
Hmm.
girls would bring somebody to me, I don't know about him, and but they would never know. I didn't reject those individuals. I don't want anybody to get the impression that I was this kind of father that was this ogre and
Never.
didn't allow you guys to make your own choices. But I knew who couldn't handle your level of vision.
Yes. So that is the perfect spot to go into. Yeah. Being a teenager, growing up in your home as your daughter, as mommy's daughter. And when
Mm-hmm.
I got into those dating years, and you and I have, there's always, we're kindred. We're
Mm-hmm.
so much alike. I'm your namesake. I'm named after you. I'm very much like you. I'm a creative, free bird, a
Mm-hmm.
visionary, all the things. So the clashing of the heads was really more about that than anything else, right?
Yeah,
And
well,
finding our way through that. But we've
right.
always still,
And,
even in
and
the
another
midst of,
thing too, we're
sure,
very we're very strong-willed,
yeah,
very strong. And here's what I mean, because when you hear that, some people see that as a negative connotation.
I
Here's
don't.
what I mean by that. The way I see you is when you believe in something,
Mhm,
there's no one or nobody can stop you. That's a shit like your daddy.
mhm,
I remember you came to me and said, Daddy, I'm going to Japan. Where the
mhm,
hell did you go?
mhm.
And then she goes to Japan. Then she goes to France. And she's gone like, and this starts when she's like 18, 19, 20. She's traveled around the world. My daughter has traveled around the world
Mhm.
before she was 25 or 26 years old. She's been to Africa. She's been to Africa. She's been all over the world. And I'm like, that was heavy for me.
Oh, Dad. Okay, so I don't want to get stuck there, but let me just add this little tidbit because I think people will really enjoy this. I've always known that you loved me. I've always known that. But when I really, really knew you loved me, and this is no lie, this is not a joke. I'm not putting on just for the sake of this conversation. When I knew my daddy loved me was when you drove me to the airport when I left for Japan.
I
I
don't
was
even
20,
22.
23, 22, 23 years old,
Yeah, you was right.
and you bawled your eyes out.
Don't do that. Don't do this. Let's
But
not go
I'm
there.
back now, Daddy. I feel
Nah, we're not gonna go there because we're gonna start that mess. No, don't do that. I remember
Daddy,
that.
that was,
I was hoping you didn't bring that up. That
but
was
but but for the sake of this conversation, you will never know what that did for me as your daughter. And again, it's not because I didn't think that you loved me, but the depth of your love for me in that moment, and I can still see you.
nah, I ain't gonna do it with you. You gotta do it by yourself. I ain't
I
gonna
can
do
still see you. Um, you lost it, Papa. And I was just like, oh my gosh, my dad loves me so much. And I got on that plane and I felt like I was standing on your shoulders.
That's what it's supposed to be like.
And that the memory of that carried me for the 2 years that I lived in Japan, just thinking about my dad and how much I'm so loved by him and so covered by him. That's one of my fondest memories out of all the, we've made a lot of memories. That is one of my fondest memories of you.
What
And
can I tell you my fondest? Well, I have a bunch of
yes,
fun. I don't have no fondest memory. I think my fondest memory would probably be when you were a little girl. But to bring it more into the relevancy, I think my fondest memories when we came to France.
yeah, that was awesome.
When you and Eddie
That was awesome.
sent for mom and I and flew us to France
To Monaco. Yeah.
and we stayed there for a week
Mm-hmm.
and all expense paid,
Yeah.
first class hotel, everything was first class. I mean, room service, you could get it 24/7.
Yes.
Guys, let me tell you something. I thought at that time I was at the waiting room for heaven. I just knew the next step was gonna be right in the throne room because it was absolutely beautiful. Nothing but Ferraris. And that was to me said, my little girl is grown
Yeah.
woman. Yeah, we're gonna say the other thing. Pray for
Yeah.
y'all pray. Y'all pray
You got
for
to do better.
sanctify me.
Bless them, Lord.
My
Get
little
the
girl
all.
is grown. And
Yeah.
it was like, okay, she gets it.
Mm.
You know, because before then there was a few things that we had gone through, a few
Yeah.
confrontations here and there, uh, uh, a few of the relationships that you had. You were never a bad judge of character when it came to men, and I have to say that you've
I
always been a
appreciate
good judge of. You've always been a good judge of character because every guy, which has not been a lot,
that.
uh, but I can count them on less than three fingers anyway. Anyway,
Yeah.
the ones that have come into my life, come into your life, and I have met have been genuinely nice guys. Leela's father is genuinely a nice guy.
He's a
Uh,
sweet.
there are some really nice guys. I just understood that you needed nice, but you also needed a barometer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not someone to set the pace of your life, but someone to monitor the pace of your life because they have their own pace. Someone much like your dad who has a schedule to keep. And the guys you picked were trying to find that schedule.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So that has been the journey through your 20s and all of that.
It has.
And, and the first young man, we won't go into his name, and you all know who I'm talking about, I thought was potentially a lifelong partner.
Yeah.
And, but a lot of times you don't marry people.
Not Only who
You
he is.
you marry the village.
Yes,
You marry the personalities of the family.
yes, sir. Yes,
And when the foundation is not right, the building is not going to be correct.
yes, sir.
Because we always fall back on our foundation, much like you do right now. Right
Yes.
now, your prerequisites for a man is he got to handle his business, he got to take care of his family, and he can't have no excuses for that.
No excuses.
And he has to treat me with respect
Yes, sir.
because I will give him the same. If he
Always.
loves me, I will love him even more. So we all understand the prerequisite, but that's a daunting task for many males.
Evidently so.
It is very much.
Yeah.
It's very, very
Mm,
much. In the world we live in now, it's so easy to facade success and happiness. You can paint it on, you can internet it out, but it don't compute to happiness, peace, joy that you can have individually, minus this publicity or minus this eye of the world looking at you. And
I,
that's what they push
sorry, I
you
didn't
by.
mean to cut you off. Let me
No,
let
no, go ahead.
you're on track though. You're absolutely right. And I have found that in my, I would say older age, but older than when I was in my 20s. Um, and I feel like so much of my focus in my 30s has been on Leela, you know. But where I've come to now is I like to see who you are when you're upset. I like to see who you are when there is a disagreement. I like to see who you are when there's a conflict because I do believe that that is the probably the truest display of our character. When we feel offended or when someone has brought an offense to us and accountability is required,
Very
or
good.
if there is conflict and there's a disagreement and I'm not really in agreement with what you say, how is your communication then? How is your countenance? How is your character? How do you show up in the relationship? Are you the Instagram version that you
Mhm,
display and you want the world to believe you are? Or are you something completely different?
mhm,
And so when you say this uh, era of facade and smoke and mirrors seems
mhm.
prevalent, it is
Very
very much
much so.
that, Papa.
Mhm,
Very, very much that. People say if you right now are dating, there's pee and boo boo in the pool, in the dating
mhm,
pool, you know.
mhm.
So I'm no
Yeah,
longer in the dating pool. I'm more like in the dating spa,
right.
the dating jacuzzi, because there's only a few of us in there.
Right. You can't afford to go to the spa. You have to have a certain status and understanding to be a spa.
I have a membership, you
I
know.
got you.
I have a
I
membership.
got you. I got you. I got you.
But yeah,
Because
going back to dating years, um, you said something and it resonates. You said you were never concerned about my discernment as much as you were concerned about um how did you phrase it? How did you phrase it, Papa? Essentially,
you have had over the years the tendency to believe
yes,
that when you care, when
yes,
you love, when you give your heart or give your affections to a situation, you become unguarded.
yeah,
And the reason I knew that because I'm the same kind of person.
yeah,
So I've had to learn, and at that time, I was learning what to guard and what to allow to be revealed. And while you were growing up and maturing, you were revealing too much because I wasn't sure that the individuals you were around
mhm,
had the ability to make you safe in letting that go. I felt like as a dad, I needed to be there
yeah,
or have my input because this can be injurious to my daughter if this takes place. Now, could I have explained it to you back then like this? Oh, no, no. Wisdom and age allows you to look back and dissect your
yeah.
path because if I didn't, we wouldn't be better now.
Well, yeah,
We're better now because we've gone back and said, okay, this is the steps we took. How can we now? What did I learn about you doing that? What did you learn about me? And
Mhm.
how can we use that information in a positive way to make our relationship more viable,
Yeah.
more transcending, all of that? And fortunately, that's what we've done. But a lot of people don't do that. Dad and daughters have conflicts during their teenage years, during their young adult years, and they're never able to mend it. There's always a sore spot. There's always a broken place. And but for the grace of God, giving Him all the praise
All the glory, all the praise.
and His peace and His ability to allow mercy to be exercised through you and through me in many situations, there would we would be also the same way. Because it's so difficult to be told you were a failure at something you were never taught to do.
I can imagine.
It's a very difficult thing. And see, here's the thing about it is, I don't think anybody can teach you how to be a mother, but 99% of the homes, there is a mother,
Yeah.
or 90% of the homes, there is a mother. So there's always a feminine example, especially in the African, well, I the Black family
Yeah.
home. There's
Yeah.
always the
Around.
presence of women, grandma, great grandma, all of that. For a man, because there's such an absenteeism of male role models that have to do with being an effective father. You
Which
understand
is
what?
why we're part of the reason why we're doing this. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and being able to get through those moments, being able to repair those moments, being able to look at it and say, okay, that was then, this is now. Okay, how can we not only heal from what we've been through, learn from what we've been through, but become more cohesive and more closer and unified
Yes.
because of what we've been through.
Because of what we've been through.
You know what I mean?
Recollecting my thoughts and the fact that I do operate so much like you, so I'm able to reflect on things. One of the past episodes, I was giving you your flowers and giving you some accolades and really being able to acknowledge and recognize that while you may not have always shown up in the ways that I may have desired in certain moments, the underlying effect of your presence in my life has always been consistent and positive and the stuff of love, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so my teenage years, the thing that I wrestled with and the issue that I had a lot of times when we would butt heads was, well, you're so busy and you're so preoccupied with things that don't have anything to do with me ultimately.
And that's very reasonable. You
And
felt,
then,
can I dare say this and then I'll let you finish?
sure, sure, sure.
I would not be surprised if you didn't feel like you had to compete with my occupation as a pastor.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So
And
then
that's,
when I'm dating and stuff, then there's extra involvement. And it's
mm-hmm.
like, well, why all this involvement now? And I know that sounds very like egotistical, but when you're young and you're dumb and you're stupid and you don't have all the components, but you're growing up and you're trying to find yourself.
But that's reasonable though. That was reasonable. I don't consider that young, dumb, and immature. That's human. That's human at 16, 17 years old. That's a human reaction. Well, okay, Dad, you're not involved in this, you're not involved in it, but all of a sudden you want to jump in and be involved in this. Okay, that's reasonable.
It
Go ahead.
experienced like control, or
Yeah.
like you're not letting me be me and you're not letting me express myself, or you're not letting me be the free bird that I am. Like,
And you let me know that too. You
well,
did
we
let
told y'all we butted heads now.
yeah,
We told y'all.
she did not hold her tongue, guys.
I love you so much, Papa.
I
You're
love
one of
you
the
too,
best
girl.
friends. I love you so
But
much.
that's why I love you though, because I know you're strong. You got your dad in you. So I know ain't nobody gonna ever take advantage of you.
ECM. ECM.
You that's right.
You've taught me, Daddy, that being a lover and being vulnerable, but balancing vulnerability with discernment and good judgment, wisdom, but allowing your loving, vulnerable heart is a strength. The
Mm-hmm.
way that I love is my superpower. Now, I did have to mature to a space and a place where I realized that loving someone and extending my love to someone does not equal just trusting them blindly. It does not equal giving more information than I need to give. It does not equal being completely guardless and allowing all vulnerability towards people, because at the end of the day, people need to show themselves approved to secure a certain space and place in your life. That is something I've had to really learn over time, but I'm there. But trust and believe, it doesn't make me any less of a lover than I was even as a girl. I'm just a smarter one. I'm
Okay,
one with more wisdom.
there
And
you go.
I get that loving heart. Mommy's a sweetheart. She's a lover too. I don't take anything. I love you, mommy. I don't
Mhm.
take anything away from Jacqueline Renee. Okay, baby.
All right.
But I get my heart, I think, from my papa. The way
Well,
I love Horde. I love Horde.
I think what I think causes you to have the point of view of just loving, finding a way in
Yeah.
every situation, no matter how difficult it is, to find positivity and find a way to think better of this person, even than what they display. It's kind of like I heard a gentleman say, your life is like a bus and you drive it.
Hmm.
Not everybody on your bus is going to make it to where you're headed.
I like that.
So there are some people going to ride for a while. There's some people going to ride for life. Family going to be on the bus. There's a family section
My
on the bus.
bus. Yes,
They
sir.
ride for life. But then the other people going to say, well, hey, Licky, I can't go ride no more. I can't ride no more. Some guys going to say, hey, can't ride no more.
Yeah.
Either because the ride is uncomfortable for them or they have chosen to get their own bus.
Mhm. They can't
So
pay the bus fare. Uh, what requires them to be able to sit in the seat is too uncomfortable. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of different reasons why
but
folks ride
here's
the
the thing
bus.
about it, it's your bus.
It's my
So
bus.
you have to maintain your bus in such a way that invites the people that you want to sit in your bus. How your
I
bus
like
looks,
that.
how it presents itself. And here's what's even better. What route are you on? Are you on the Beverly Hills route? Or are you on the South Central route? What's what you know,
Daddy,
which route?
you're right.
Do you take your character? Do you take who you are? Which route do you take? You're Beverly Hills.
All the
You're
way, baby.
Hancock Park. You on the whole.
All the way.
And so when you have that kind of thinking, character wise, we're not talking cash. We're talking character wise, and you attempt to humble yourself. That's not humility.
Right.
That's that's actually putting the person you're with in an unsuccessful situation.
When you say that's not humility, what do you mean?
When you come to the place and said he or she is not on the same, cannot ride on my bus because they're not going on the same route.
Okay.
They may be a friendship route, they might be, a fellowship route, whatever. But finding out exactly who can ride your bus and who can be a part of your life, and that's what relationship is for me. The people I've got a relationship with, they don't ride my bus no more, but I can go back and pick them up if I want to.
Yeah.
You put something on the internet that made me just started boohoo. It was, you talked about the the inheritance of a father,
Manhood.
and and in that little phrase, it said something about when others say good things about your dad. It's just, to me, that's the goal as a man.
It is absolutely the goal. And, it does what it does for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, for me now, as an older woman, as a mother, and as a child who didn't always want to share her father, share her
Right,
mom, and now being on the other side of things and understanding just what that sacrifice was for, and
right.
being able to tangibly see that it was so much more than me having to share you.
Oh yeah, much
It
better.
was so much more than that, right? Like, as comforting or as frustrating as that could have been at times, you've touched countless lives to the point where they talk to me about my dad. Like, your
Mm.
dad is so amazing, and your dad this, and your dad that, and Apostle this, and Pastor Morrison that, and this. Like, So for me, it's like yeah, it was a major sacrifice that I had to share my parents my whole entire life.
Mhm.
But boy, was it a worthy sacrifice.
Praise God. And that's beautiful
That's an inherent.
that you guys would see that. Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
Deep. That's deep. That's deep. You know, one of the things I attempted to do while I was busy in my younger years for 30 years or so doing what I was doing was I wanted you guys to share in the success of it.
Mm.
And I remember I would go somewhere or something, I would bring back gifts for my kids and make
Every
sure you
time.
guys. I always wanted my kids to feel a part of what I was doing. I don't know if they understood that was what I was doing at the time. I wanted them not to feel like I'm choosing them over this. That was the case with my wife. And many of you that are in ministry right now, if you haven't faced it, you'll face it. If you don't face it, then thank God you don't have to face it. You face the time, especially when you're young in ministry, where you're so preoccupied with building ministry or building the business or building whatever successful thing you're trying to build, that your family feels neglected to some degree. And they
Mm.
don't feel a part of it. They feel like, we're here waiting on you to do your thing. I never wanted my family to feel the effects of that. There were some things I couldn't avoid, but I always wanted you guys to know this is what daddy's doing, and this is the effect of what daddy's doing.
Mhm.
We're building a building.
Yeah.
You guys get out of school, come by, baby, bring the babies by. We're
You did
renovating
include us.
center
You
so
did.
they can see what's going on. So I always wanted it to be inclusive. And no matter how inclusive it is, when you got other girls, females, men, women, families that are pulling for your dad, and your dad is providing the same kind of atmosphere that you get. It's kind of
Mhm.
like you ain't supposed to be getting that. That's for me. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Up.
I
I
get
get
it.
to see them on Sunday and Tuesday and then leave them alone. That's how we felt. Golly, God. But
And
yeah,
that's
people are thirsty and they needed what they needed. A lot of them didn't have dads, you know. A lot of people don't have dads. They don't have the leadership. They don't have the love. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
well, you know, you didn't cut me off, sweetheart, but you guys are so willing to share,
Yeah.
and I think that
Oh, we know.
that's attributed to your own individual spiritual connection to the Creator.
Absolutely.
Because I think because you're raised in a minister or pastor's apostle's home, the assumption is that you're going to be a certain way. I never assumed that you guys were going to live for the Lord. I always wanted to
Really?
make sure, and I would make sure by making living for the Lord pleasant.
Okay, so I want to pause here.
Sure, go ahead.
One of the things that I love about me and TT was talking about this literally just yesterday. One of the things that I loved about growing up in your house, because that's where we started, is that yeah, while you and mommy were pastors and there was a lot going on with that because of the size of the ministry and just it's just a lot, right? But y'all never put on. Who you were at church, who you were in ministry is who you were at home. The standards and the principles that you taught from the pulpit were what you lived in the home. You anticipated obedience, respect, praying, living for the Lord, all of that, but not in a pious or religious kind of way. You never promoted religion to us, ever. It was never about Christianity. You always taught us being a believer is about having a personal relationship with God. You used to tell us when we would get in trouble, you know, you want to be out here doing this, doing that, whatever the situation was. We were being chastised for being disobedient. I'm getting on to you, but at the end of the day, you got to answer to God. What you're doing is a violation of the standard and principle that's set in this home. So, okay, yeah, I'm going to get you for disobeying me. But at the end of the day, what you really need to be worried about is your disobedience to God. And that was such a promoted, consistent message in our home. It was not about religion. It was not about getting dressed up and going to church. It was not about looking or playing a part. It was about having a personal experience and relationship with God. And I love that about my life. I love that about my childhood because it has been the thing that has railed me, right? So if I got off track here or tried to think outside of the box in this way. Well, let me try this. That steer would always yank me back like, no, you already know what the truth is. You have a personal relationship with God. You know he wouldn't be pleased with this. You know this is not in alignment with you. You know that this is not in alignment with what you come from and what you know about the creator. And I really, again, I'll give you your roses while you're here. I appreciate y'all for that.
I think the greatest thing that a parent can do is set an air of accountability. Let me make sure
Mm.
I explain that. There is some physical or personal discipline involved in that as a child,
Mm.
but that shouldn't be the memory of the child. What should be the memory of the child is the impression that that parent made on them that transcends the difficult times. The difficult times are very much recognized. We remember those times because
Mhm.
you can't forget what you don't remember.
Yeah.
Forgetting those things are what's behind, reaching forward to the
Yeah.
things that are
Yeah.
before you. So again, I think it's just your ability to look at your past and not see the pain, but understand that, okay, what I went through was purposeful. And I've always felt like this. True prosperity is the people you touch, not the stuff you have.
We're known for our fruit.
And I believe, uh, as you know, we've had stuff. You know, we've lived in custom homes and, you know, drove different kind of cars and
Yep.
all of that stuff. And I still have a fondness for the finer things in life. So I'm not denigrating that, nor am I not coming off as a faith, false humility. But I believe that the success of an individual's life is the relationships he or she establishes. Now, the foundation of the relationship comes from the home. How I relate to, how you relate to a man largely is affected by how your mom related to me
100%.
and how I related to you. And
100%.
it's the same thing. And that so many young women and young men like yourself, not like yourself, but in your age bracket, they're
Mhm.
trapped in this scenario of what you saw versus what you want.
Yes.
This is what my experience has been growing up as a young woman. My dad wasn't in the home.
Yes.
My dad didn't claim me. My dad came by to see me. My dad picked me up.
Yeah.
Whatever the scenario, you're going to find a thorn in every bush if it's roses. You're not going to have a thornless rose bush. You're not going to have a thornless rose bush. You're going to have thorns. So life is always going to have thorns. But the health of the thorns has a lot to do with the health of the rose. So when you understand that there are things that I've had in my life that are sticking points in my life, that maybe my dad wasn't this, maybe my mom wasn't that, and having enough wisdom and foresight to say, listen, I do not want to carry this on to the next generation. I don't want to be generationally cursing my
Hey,
children and by repeating the same
there you go.
negative behavior that
Don't
I,
you don't want to set your children's teeth on edge from the sour
there you
grapes.
go. That's right. You don't want that. You want a situation that your kids or your seed or those that you influence have an understanding that the most important thing in life is to understand how to maintain relationship. And in that, there is no relationship without humility.
No, sir.
I think
No,
people are trying
sir.
to build relationships around their pride. And what you build with pride, it comes before the fall.
And it is guaranteed to fall.
Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. You have to build your relationship around your humility.
Define humility in your terms, Papa.
What you're willing to do favorably for the person that you're with,
Mm.
to their favor. Even if they don't understand that this is to their favor, you be willing to do, even if they don't like it, even if they curse you. I have, and this is not a braggadocious thing. I have taken care of my wife all her life, ever since we got married. And not that she's incapable, that she's done work and all of that, but I've taken care of all her life. but it's been the understanding is it takes a favorable understanding of grace
Mm.
to build a cohesive unit.
Mm.
You know, I don't know. We want a savior without sacrifice.
Yeah.
We want resurrection, but we hate death.
Woohoo!
You know what I'm saying? So
Death to ego, death to
we,
pride,
there you go.
death to selfishness,
There
death
you go.
to our own selfish desires and what we want and how we think it should play out and what we think we should be getting in return. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Generational.
Yeah.
Generational. Mama like that, daughter like that, daddy like that, kids like that, grandkids like that. And you did. Then you see the reverse of it, where an individual makes a decision to change the dynamics of how that family relates and to challenge that broken place in that relationship and says, listen, I'm not going to let my family see this. I'm not going to, it's a scar on me. You guys didn't deserve the scar I had.
That's right.
You needed to know I had them
That's right.
because it made me vulnerable.
That's right.
But you're not responsible for healing them.
That's right. And I'm not going to make you responsible in your life as a result of making you the sacrifice for bad decisions or me not deciding to do something different. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a whole, it's a discussion that needs to be had by
Yeah.
families, but we're so afraid of truth. We have Black families, and
Yes.
that's mainly, I'm not mainly, we're reaching out to everyone, but that's my,
That's okay for us to lift up our own people. Black families. Yes, sir.
uh, we're not very good at oral history
Mm,
because the nation is not good at giving us real history.
come on.
We don't have the real history of who we are. We have dogs being sicked on us in the 60s and hung from trees
Come
and the things that the society has highlighted as earmarks of our suffering. But we don't see the young man that's arrested for winking at a white woman and shot to death. And his dad can't do anything about it. You don't see it where a young boy goes to work with his dad and he happens to work for someone who does not appreciate our culture and who we are. And he watches his big, strong daddy being kicked in the butt by this man,
on.
and his daddy cannot do anything. How humiliating. And if we as a people understood the sacrifices that
Yes.
my dad's dad,
Yes.
made to put us in the position that we're in, I would hope it would make us as men a little bit more accountable and responsible for the families that we give birth to.
How do we promote that, Papa?
Well, I think dialogue. I think dialogue is important. I think a lot of times we as people, we as Black people, we are not as informed as we should be.
Yes.
Because quite a number of us will never watch a lot of news. We don't really watch a lot of it. A lot of it is propaganda and all that, and I understand that. But also, propaganda can inform you of
Yes.
what propaganda they're trying to prop.
Yes.
So
And frame your thinking.
and so I think that by and large, because we have such a, it's difficult not to repeat the past when you don't know your history.
Right. Because how do you know what you're not repeating if you don't know your history? Yes. E5
They've
thing.
lied, undercovered, changed the complexion of so much of our history to make it look as though we are probably the least smartest people in the whole world. But if you look at historical records that have not been changed and altered by the cultural setting that which we live in, we've invented a lot of stuff that we haven't gotten credit for.
Yeah.
But it's scriptural. You'll build houses that you can't live in. You'll live in coast. A lot of that has to do with our position in the kingdom.
Oh
and
wow.
I'm
See now
there. Guess
you
I'm about
taking
to
down a
do.
whole new path now. We're gonna have to we gotta go into that.
Yeah.
That's what we'll pick up next time. But I do want to go back to the original question,
Yes, please
which
do.
was my experience being raised in your household. I want to go back and touchstone this
Right.
because it ties into what you were talking about. So I talked about my younger childhood. I talk about my teenage years. And where
Right.
I'm at right now is very much so what you're speaking to, which is
Right.
understanding the importance of the legacy,
Mhm.
understanding the importance of not setting my daughter's teeth on edge or her kids' teeth on edge based upon my actions or my lack of accountability for my life. What am I speaking to? I'm speaking to, I grew up in a home where there was a mother and father,
Mhm.
but it wasn't just a two-parent home. It was a two-parent home of two people who had a vision to truly provide a loving, orderly, consistent atmosphere. They love each other. They're still very much so in love. And they believe in working as a team. So it wasn't just this idea of, oh, yeah, just find you somebody, get married, and just stay married for the sake of being married. That's not what I want to promote. I want to promote what I grew up in, which is two people that come together in purpose and in vision, that rear and bring their children up in a loving environment, and that work together as true teammates. Now, how that varies out, and it's not to say that it's perfect and it's easy and all that every day, but that is the goal, right? So anything less than that will not do. It's not enough for Elika. I'm speaking for me to say, oh, well, now I have a daughter, so I just got to find me a man and find me a husband just so I can make sure. No, because that's not what I want to promote in my legacy, in my lineage. As my daughter has kids, that's not what I want to promote. I want to be like my mom and dad who said, I want to give the generations after me more than what I had, which means that I have to make decisions today that will set them up for success tomorrow.
That's it.
So I just wanted to bring that back home to highlight that that's where I'm at today, being you and
Can
mom.
I, let me point out one more thing too.
Yes.
As Elika, and we're going to conclude, as Elika was sharing, I think it's important. She didn't say this, but I find it important to say. Uh, when you are a mother who has a father who may not live in the same home, I
Mhm.
hate to say single mother because there's no such thing as a single mother. You can't be a mother singularly, but I understand that you're single in a sense. But being a parent of
Unmarried mother.
yeah,
Mhm.
being a custodial parent,
Mhm.
that's good. Being the custodial parent, and when you're the custodial parent, relationships with males don't always work out in a perfect sort of way. You know, our relationship, though we've been married 40 something years, it ain't always been worked out in a perfect sort of way. It's always been through some consternation and sometimes some arguments, sometimes some disagreements. But much to the commendation of my beautiful daughter, she has never spoken negatively about her child's father. She's always spoken of him in the highest regard and held him in the highest regard because she understood the impact that would have on on my granddaughter and her daughter to negatively affect how she views males,
Yes.
which then would make it impossible for her to find the right kind of relationship as she grows up. And
Yes.
most parents don't think about that. They think I'm just
Mm-mm.
this
Mm-mm.
rascal's not paying child support. He's not doing this. He's this. He's sleeping with other women. All these other things. You know, you got all these things going on in your mind, young lady. When what you should be doing is have the environment in mind. And my daughter is so intelligent, so smart, and so spiritual that she has enough foreknowledge and for insight to say, I'm not going to mess up her quest for a relationship when she gets older
Mhm.
by painting this kind of picture of her dad or painting a negative picture. Even though her dad's a nice guy, good guy, we're not talking negative about him. But I'm just saying that's a very important point because it's impossible for you to be where she is if you don't have that ingredient in your life.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate that. So anyway,
Thank you, Daddy. I
all right,
appreciate you saying that. That means a lot. Means a lot.
powerful.
Thank you, Papa.
You're welcome, baby.
Thank you.
Well, we about finished.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been full. It's been good.
Yeah.
I think we detailed that pretty good. Folks were saying that they wanted us to juice the topics. We want more details.
But
Stay.
what are they looking for? I mean, we can give you details. We don't have any secrets.
We don't have.
We have private moments, but we don't have any secret moments. We
Yes.
wouldn't be here if our intention was not to lay our situation naked and open and bare, and to bear our hearts, to bear our lives, to let you into our lives, to let you be a part of our lives. And this is not done for any other reason except the fact that we have a love for the family,
We absolutely do. And so,
especially the Black family. We
yes, sir.
have a compassion for the unit of the family. So if you're getting something out of it, please do us a favor. Ask us some questions. Send in some questions. Send in some topics you would like for us to discuss. There is no topic we won't discuss. Send us some topics. Send us some questions. YouTube, where are we thinking?
Apple
YouTube.
Podcasts and Spotify.
Go
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
Put your questions in, subscribe, follow us, do all of that. We promise you we'll get to your questions and we'll answer the questions the best way we know how. And I promise you this too. If I don't know, guess what I'm gonna say? I don't know.
Ah, he absolutely will say that. He's
I
not
don't know
going to
that.
try and placate or pretend like he knows something he doesn't know. He'll say that he doesn't know, but more than likely, he'll probably know. He's
Thank
pretty,
you, dog.
he's full of
Thank
wisdom, which is why I don't mind sharing him with y'all. Listen, we love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As my papa said, like, please like,
you. Mhm.
please subscribe, comment, please comment, put in your questions. We
Please.
appreciate the support. We want to keep this going, but we need you to do that. So, like, subscribe, comment, love, be loved, and let love. In the meantime, and between time,
Take
take
care
care.
of you.
Go,
And
Papa.
take
Take care
care of
of yourself and
your neighbor. We
your
love you
neighbor.
guys.
We love
Okay.
you. God
Peace.
bless.
Bye bye now. Bye guys.